Every empire makes the same promise to its people, that its money is safe, that its system is stable. Now what exists today will exist tomorrow. And every empire is eventually proven wrong. History is filled with confident governments, trusted currencies, and respected institutions that collapsed faster than anyone imagined possible. Not because people were foolish, but because they believed permanence was real. They believed money was solid. They believed systems were stronger than time. They were wrong. From ancient Rome to revolutionary France, from the American Civil War to modern Lebanon, ordinary people woke up one day to discover that their savings were meaningless, their salaries useless, and their future rewritten without their consent. Collapse is not an exception. Collapse is the pattern. The real danger is not losing money during a collapse. The real danger is believing collapse cannot happen at all. We look at numbers on screens, balances in banks, and national currencies and assume they are foundations, something solid, something permanent. But money is not stone or steel. Money is agreement, it is trust, and trust can vanish overnight. That is why history is so brutal and so valuable, because every collapse leaves behind clues, patterns, warnings, and when you look closely, you see something unsettling. The people who survive financial disasters are almost never the ones who believe the most. They are the ones who doubt first. They question stability. They assume fragility. They prepare while others relax. To understand why, we need to go back to one of history's longest surviving empires. The Byzantine lesson, when even gold fails. The Byzantine Empire is often remembered as the eastern half of Rome, the part that somehow survived for nearly 1,000 years after the Western Roman Empire collapsed. While Europe fragmented into chaos, Byzantium maintained trade, bureaucracy, and economic order. At the center of that stability was a coin, the gold solidus. For centuries, it was trusted across continents. Merchants from Western Europe, the Middle East, and Asia accepted it without hesitation. It was reliable, consistent, predictable. In a medieval world filled with uncertainty, the solidus functioned like a global reserve currency. Its power came from one thing: trust in its gold content. You would think the Byzantines learned from Rome's earlier mistake. Rome's silver denarius had once been a respected currency too. But Roman emperors repeatedly reduced its silver content to fund wars and spending. Over time, the coin became silver in name only. Inflation followed. Trust collapsed. Rome paid the price. The lesson was obvious. And yet, centuries later, Byzantium repeated it. Faced with financial pressure, Byzantine rulers began quietly reducing the purity of the solidus, mixing in cheaper metals, stretching value without openly admitting it. At first, no one noticed. Trade continued. Confidence held. But trust does not break all at once. It cracks slowly. Merchants began testing coins, weighing them, comparing them. Word spread. The solidus was no longer what it claimed to be. And once trust was damaged, it could not be repaired. The result was devastating. The currency that had anchored Mediterranean trade for generations lost credibility. Economic stability weakened. The empire lost one of the pillars that had supported it for centuries. Who survived this collapse? Not people who trusted official currency. Not people who relied on imperial guarantees. Merchants who had quietly hoarded real gold survived. Those who owned land beyond imperial reach preserved wealth. Value fled the system and moved into assets that could not be altered by decree. This brings us to the first rule history repeats relentlessly. Governments cannot resist the temptation to weaken their money, and when they do, real value escapes. But not all collapses are slow. Some arrive without warning. The Black Death. When survival rewrites the economy in the mid-14th century, Europe was struck by one of the most devastating events in human history. The Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, up to half of Europe's population died. Entire cities emptied, villages vanished. Trade routes collapsed. Families disappeared in weeks. From a human perspective, it was catastrophic, but economically, something strange happened. When half the population disappears, everything changes. Labor becomes scarce. Workers gain leverage. Survivors can demand higher wages. Land becomes cheap because there are not enough people to farm it. Homes sit abandoned. Fields go unworked. The old economic order breaks. People who survived with skills, tools, or liquidity suddenly found themselves powerful. Land that once required generations of wealth could be purchased for almost nothing. Social mobility increased not because society became fairer, but because death had reshuffled the deck. The Black Death did not destroy wealth evenly. It redistributed it. This is an uncomfortable truth, but a necessary one. Crisis does not treat everyone equally. It rewards those with reserves and punishes those without them. And if this sounds familiar, it should. During the COVID pandemic, modern economies experienced a smaller but recognizable version of the same pattern. Supply chains broke. Governments printed trillions to prevent collapse. Asset prices surged while wages lagged behind. Those with cash bought homes, stocks, and businesses. Those living paycheck to paycheck fell further behind. Different century, same mechanism. Pandemics do not just destroy lives. They reorganize economies. And once again, survival favored those who were prepared before the shock arrived. The most dangerous belief of all, at this point you might think the lesson is simple. Hold gold, hold land, avoid paper money. But history is more complicated. Because sometimes the danger is not currency, it is institutions. People trust institutions because they look permanent, large buildings, powerful names, long histories. But size and reputation do not equal safety. And no city illustrates this better than Renaissance Florence. In the 14th century, Florence was Europe's financial capital. Banking families dominated trade across the continent. Names like the Bardi and Peruzzi commanded respect. Kings borrowed from them, nations depended on them. Ordinary citizens believed their money was safe because these institutions were powerful. They were wrong. Florentine banks had lent massive sums to European monarchs, especially Edward III of England. When war drained royal finances, Edward simply defaulted. He stopped paying. The banks collapsed. Depositors lost everything. Trade froze. Florence fell into turmoil. The lesson was brutal and unforgettable. Too big to fail is a lie as old as finance itself. Institutions exist to profit, not to protect you. When they fall, they take your savings with them. We have seen this lesson repeated again and again. Florence in the 1300s. Wall Street in 2008. Lebanon in 2019. Different eras. Same result. Why trust is the real currency. The common thread in every collapse is not greed, war, or disaster. It is misplaced trust. Money works only because people believe others will accept it tomorrow. Banks work only because people believe deposits will be honored. Governments work only because people believe promises will be kept. When belief breaks, systems collapse faster than anyone expects. History does not punish people for being poor. It punishes people for believing stability is permanent. Those who survive are not necessarily rich. They are cautious. They diversify. They assume failure is possible. The illusion of permanence is the most dangerous financial mistake of all, and the reason history keeps repeating is simple. Each generation believes it is smarter than the last. More advanced, more protected. Until it isn't. In the next part, we will see how war, revolution, and debt accelerate collapse. How paper money dies under pressure. And why ordinary people pay the highest price when systems break. This is only the beginning. Every collapse begins with The most dangerous moment in any financial collapse is not when people panic. It is when they realize the doors are already closed. Because by the time fear becomes visible, the system has already decided who will be saved and who will be sacrificed. History shows this with brutal consistency. Collapses do not unfold like movies. There is no countdown, no warning siren, no final announcement. There is just a quiet morning when money stops working. Between 2019 and 2021, Lebanon experienced something most people in the modern world believed was impossible. Banks closed. Withdrawals were limited. Transfers were frozen. People could see their money on screens but could not touch it. The Lebanese pound collapsed, losing more than 90% of its value. A lifetime of savings turned into pocket change. This was not limited to the poor. Doctors, engineers, retirees, business owners, entire middle-class families were erased financially. People lined up outside banks demanding access to their own deposits. Many were told their money was gone. The shock was not just economic. It was psychological. People realized something terrifying. Their savings were not stored. They were lent. And in a crisis, the bank had the power to say no. Who survived this collapse? Not those who trusted the system longest, not those who believed reassurances. The people who suffered least were those who had diversified abroad, held physical assets, or exited the banking system early. Everyone else was trapped. This was not ancient history. This was the modern world. And it shattered the illusion that advanced economies are immune to collapse. The myth of safety in the modern age, many people watching this will think, that could never happen here. Americans thought that in 2008. Millions lost homes, pensions shrank, retirement plans vanished. Meanwhile, the institutions that caused the crisis were rescued, confidence was restored, but justice was not. In 2020, during the pandemic, governments printed trillions to prevent collapse. Asset prices exploded upward. Stocks recovered almost instantly. Housing prices soared. Wages did not. Those who owned assets became wealthier. Those who relied on income fell behind. In 2023, regional banks in the United States collapsed in days. Not years. Days. Depositors rushed for exits. Confidence vanished. The same story repeated yet again. Too big to fail became too fragile to trust. History does not change, the setting does. What actually survives collapse? By now, a pattern should be obvious. Paper money fails. Debt destroys. Institutions protect themselves first. But survival is not random. Across centuries and continents, the same things hold value when everything else falls apart. Gold survives currency collapse because it cannot be printed. Land survives inflation because it produces real output. Food survives every crisis because people must eat. Energy survives because nothing functions without it. But assets alone are not enough. Because every collapse also teaches another lesson. The most resilient people in history were not just asset holders, they were producers. Skills are the final currency. When money loses meaning, skills become currency. During the Black Death, those who could farm, build, or trade rose quickly. During wartime collapses, blacksmiths, mechanics, and merchants thrived. During modern crises, people who could adapt, repair, produce, or move goods survived better than those who could not. A baker with flour is wealthier than a banker with frozen accounts. A farmer who can feed a community holds more power than a speculator holding paper promises. Skills create value when systems fail. This is the part most people miss. Collapse does not eliminate demand, it concentrates it. People still need food, shelter, medicine, transport, and energy. When supply breaks, those who can provide become essential. Money may disappear. Value does not. Collapse as transfer, not destruction. One of the hardest truths in financial history is this. Collapse does not destroy wealth. It transfers it. From those who trust systems to those who prepare outside them. From paper holders to asset holders. From passive savers to active builders. After the Black Death, peasants became landowners because land was abundant and labor was scarce. After the American Civil War, those with hard assets acquired property at fractions of its former price. After 2008, investors with cash bought homes while millions were foreclosed. Every crisis creates losers. Every crisis creates winners. The difference is preparation. This does not mean collapse is good. It means collapse is reality, and ignoring reality does not protect you from it. The real meaning of financial protection. Financial protection is not about predicting collapse. It is about assuming fragility. It is understanding that no system is permanent. No institution is guaranteed. No currency is eternal. Protection comes from diversification, from reducing dependence, from holding things that exist outside digital promises. It also comes from mindset. Those who survive do not panic early. They prepare early. They do not chase returns. They protect optionality. They do not rely on a single system. They build redundancy. History rewards those who plan for failure, not perfection. The illusion that always returns. Every generation believes it is smarter than the last. More advanced, more protected. Technology changes. Finance evolves. The illusion remains. People always believe collapse belongs to someone else. Another country, another century, another system. Until it doesn't, the pattern never breaks. Rome believed its empire was eternal. France believed its revolution was righteous. The Confederacy believed victory would validate its money. Lebanon believed its banks were untouchable. Belief did not save them. The final question history asks, history does not ask whether collapse will happen. It asks who will be ready when it does. Will you be holding promises or something real? Will you depend on systems or on skills? Will you trust stability or respect fragility? Collapse is not the end of the world. It is the end of illusions. And those who understand that do not just survive history, they shape what comes next. If this series changed the way you see money, power, and security, subscribe. History has already revealed the rules. Most people just refuse to read them.